The real estate agent smiled as he reached across the table. Congratulations. The sale is complete. I stood up so fast my chair nearly fell over. What sale? The smile disappeared from his face. He looked at me. Then at my parents. Then back at me. I thought everyone already knew. My father refused to meet my eyes. My mother looked down at the floor. That's when I realized they hadn't forgotten to tell me. They had hidden it from me. They had secretly sold the property my grandmother left me. But they had made one mistake. They forgot that I still had the last paper they needed. My name is Sarah Collins. I was 34 years old, and until that afternoon, I believed betrayal only happened in movies. My grandmother, Eleanor, wasn't wealthy. She wasn't famous. But she was the strongest woman I ever knew. After my grandfather died, she spent 25 years restoring a small farmhouse just outside our town. It wasn't worth millions. It sat on 5 peaceful acres with old oak trees, a weathered red barn, and a porch where we drank lemonade every summer. To everyone else, it was an old house. To me, it was home. When Grandma became sick, I visited almost every day after work. I drove her to appointments. Cooked meals. Read books to her when she was too tired to hold one herself. She never forgot birthdays. Never forgot to tell me she loved me. A month before she passed away, she squeezed my hand and whispered, "Promise me you'll never let them sell the farmhouse." I smiled through tears. "I promise." She nodded. "The papers are already arranged." At the time, I didn't understand what she meant. After the funeral, my parents handled everything. Dad kept saying, "Don't worry about legal stuff. We'll take care of it." I trusted them. That was my biggest mistake. Months passed. Whenever I asked about the farmhouse, Mom always answered the same way. "We're still sorting through paperwork." Then it became, "The lawyer is delayed." Then, "The market isn't good." Something always came up. Eventually, life became busy. I accepted their excuses. Until one Saturday morning. I was driving to a local farmer's market when I passed the farmhouse. There was a giant sold sign in the front yard. My heart stopped. I slammed on the brakes. Construction workers were already measuring the land. I ran toward the house. What happened? One worker shrugged. New owners. I couldn't breathe. I called my mother immediately. She answered cheerfully. "Hi, sweetheart. Why is there a sold sign at Grandma's house?" Silence. Then she quietly said, "We were going to tell you." No. They weren't. I drove straight to my parents' house. Dad was waiting on the porch. "You need to calm down." I stared at him. "You sold Grandma's house?" "It belonged to the family. It belonged to Grandma." He folded his arms. "We needed the money." "What money?" Neither of them answered. That silence told me everything. But that wasn't the worst part. The following Monday, I visited the attorney who had handled Grandma's estate. His name was Mr. Walters. The moment he saw my face, he frowned. "I assume you're here about the sale." "You knew?" "I assumed your parents informed you." "They didn't." He slowly opened a thick estate file. Then his expression changed. "Wait." He looked through several documents. Then looked at me. "This shouldn't have been possible." "What shouldn't?" "The property couldn't legally be sold without every required document." I frowned. "What document?" He reached into the folder. "There was one original agreement your grandmother insisted remain in your possession." I blinked. "My possession?" He nodded. "The Heritage Preservation Covenant." I had never heard those words before. Mr. Walters smiled faintly. "Your grandmother created it 12 years ago." "What does it do?" It gives the property's named caretaker permanent approval rights over any sale. My heart started racing. And who was the caretaker? He looked directly at me. You. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. If that's true, the sale should never have closed. He leaned back. Unless someone assumed you no longer had the original. I suddenly remembered something. The week before Grandma died, she had handed me an old envelope. She told me, "Keep this somewhere safe. One day you'll understand." I had placed it inside a fireproof box with old family photographs. I had never opened it. That evening, I rushed home. Within minutes I found the envelope. Inside was one signed original document. Exactly as Mr. Walters described. My hand started shaking. I had the last paper. Then everything changed. The title company immediately froze the property transfer. The buyers were furious. They had already paid nearly $640,000. Everyone demanded answers. During the investigation, another shocking truth appeared. My parents hadn't sold the farmhouse because they needed retirement money. My younger brother, Kyle, had secretly lost over $500,000 through risky cryptocurrency investments. He had hidden everything. When debt collectors started calling, my parents panicked. Instead of forcing Kyle to face the consequences, they secretly decided to sell Grandma's property. The one thing she begged them never to touch. I felt sick. My brother hadn't just destroyed his own future. He had sacrificed Grandma's memory to save himself. I thought it couldn't get worse. I was wrong. Forensic accountants reviewed the sale documents. Several signatures didn't match. Mine included. Someone had forged my approval. The investigation became criminal. When detectives questioned my parents, my mother broke down crying. Dad stayed silent. Kyle admitted he had asked a friend to copy my signature from an old birthday card. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't one bad decision. It had taken months of planning. Every lie. Every excuse. Every delayed phone call. Had been carefully designed to keep me away until the sale was complete. The criminal case moved quickly because the evidence was overwhelming. The buyers eventually recovered their money through insurance and escrow protections. The sale was officially canceled. The farmhouse remained exactly where Grandma wanted it. Then came the family meeting. Dad called everyone together. For a moment, I thought he wanted to apologize. Instead, he looked exhausted. I was trying to protect Kyle. I stared at him. You protected him by stealing from me? It wasn't supposed to hurt you. I laughed. It only erased Grandma's final wish. Nobody spoke. Kyle finally looked at me. I'm sorry. I looked into his eyes. Are you sorry you did it? Or sorry you got caught? He couldn't answer. That silence was all I needed. Months later, the court finalized everything. The preservation covenant remained fully enforceable. Ownership transferred exactly as Grandma intended. To me. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I intended to keep my promise. I spent the next year restoring the farmhouse. Every weekend I painted walls, repaired fences, and planted flowers exactly where Grandma used to grow them. One afternoon I found an old tin box hidden beneath a loose floorboard on the porch. Inside wasn't money. It wasn't jewelry. It was a stack of handwritten letters. One was addressed to me. Sarah, if you're reading this, it means you kept your promise. Houses are never just wood and bricks. They're memories. The people who value money more than memories eventually lose both. Protect this place. Fill it with laughter. Love. Grandma. I cried harder than I had since her funeral. A year later, I turned the farmhouse into a community art and gardening center named Eleanor House. Children planted vegetables where Grandma once grew tomatoes. Families gathered on the porch every weekend. The place lived again. People often ask if I ever forgave my parents. The answer is complicated. I forgave them because I refused to let anger become my permanent home. But forgiveness didn't erase accountability. Trust, once broken that deeply, has to be earned again. Some things can't simply be apologized away. Looking back now, I realize my grandmother understood something I didn't. She never gave me the farmhouse because it was valuable. She gave it to me because she knew I would protect what it represented. Money disappears. Property changes hands. But promises define who we become. My parents thought they had sold my inheritance. What they didn't understand was that my real inheritance wasn't the land. It was my grandmother's faith in me. And in the end, that single piece of paper didn't just save a farmhouse. It proved that the truth, no matter how carefully buried, always finds a way back into the light.